you doing, guys? Today I continue work on the Rugg. Specifically, I'm going to start taking apart and fixing the engine and transmission deck. If you're not familiar with these little lawn mowers or lawn tractors, if you want to call it, the motor and the little transmission are all bolted to this plate. As well as these bolts right here that hang down, the mower deck is mounted to it. So it becomes all one unit, and it's actually mounted to the frame on these slots. There's 4 of them, 2, 2, 2, 2, which go into corresponding points in the frame, these round holes right here. And ultimately, the height adjustment is all done by this crank, where this entire platform, if you want to call it, slides up and down. So the motor, the mower deck, the motor, and the transmission, okay, they're all tied in with one another. And when you raise and lower the mower deck, it actually raises and lowers the motor, the transmission, and the deck all at once. And this is where that screw attachment goes on. This is actually a fairly complicated unit when you kind of look at it. It is interesting. This is the blade engagement, this whole apparatus of crap. And that is the drive, or the clutch, to put it in drive and make it go forward. I've taken some really detailed pics of this unit, if you want to call it, or platform, and those pictures will be at the very end of this video. So if you have one of these Rugg carpet cuts and your mower deck or this engine plate is all torn apart, I will have some fairly good pics that you can maybe base your repair off of. So first thing I did was, so I apologize. So fast forward. Well, don't fast forward. Kind of watch the video if you could. But the detailed pics where you can kind of see where the springs are connected and where all the, like this bolt and some other stuff, you can kind of hopefully figure out your bucket of parts in order to put yours back together. I've degreased it. Basically, just took it outside, hosed it off. But there are a couple things that we need to fix. One is we have a bolt here for the deck that's busted off, so we're going to need to fix that. The deck is actually cracked. This side plate is cracked right there. This one is cracked right here. Somebody's already tried to weld it, and you can see that even the top deck is cracked. So I'm going to have to disassemble this entire unit, okay? Clean it really well, clean the cracks, and break out the welder and weld that up. And then hopefully most of the bushings and the bearings will all be good, and we can just kind of put it all back together. I have a plan to fix that bolt, which will actually save the look on the outside. So in other words, I want to try to keep this look as best that I can. I don't want it to look like I just shoved the bolt in there. So we'll talk about that at that point. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this entire unit, give everything a good cleaning, and then we'll talk about what is needed to be actually repaired. Okay, this is not a good start. I mean, I literally grabbed it a millisecond ago in order to loosen this bolt, so oh, this is going to be a fun one. With the 8 bolts removed, I got the 2 slide plates off of the center section. I think what I'm going to do is after seeing what has happened to this deck in general, I'm going to take this in small chunks. This side, obviously, this tab is broken off. Somebody's already at one time welded it, so we're going to need to fix that. It's all covered in grease too, so that doesn't help anything. On this side, they decided, obviously it's broken, but they decided to just go ahead and weld it to the plate, the center section. So I got to grind this weld down and get this bolt out of the way. Overall, it is not in bad shape. The rest of it's in pretty good shape. I do have a couple more of these plates from the old orange tractor. I might actually go see if this section is still good on those side plates, because if the bolts are still good, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this and make a nice like square here, and then just get rid of this entire corner and then re-weld it down on the bottom and not at the corner where it would be, you know, flexing, so to speak. Some of the slots are a little bit worn. I'm going to go ahead and grind these down, make them nice and smooth. I'm not going to fix the insides, but basically the outsides, get rid of anything that could be considered as a burr and really kind of cause this whole apparatus not to go up or not to go down. It looks like somebody tried to drill looks like they tried to drill something. So we got a little bit of work to do here to get these things straightened out. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work and get these sides fixed first. Then I'll start tackling like straightening this out. There's a crack right here. We'll weld that, get that all fixed. Obviously, I'll have to do a little grinding to make that look nice. But for right now, that is the plan. Let me go out to the shed and take a look at those other side plates I have. Okay, so here we are. I can already see we can't use these. All of the tabs on this one are MIA, so that's not going to work. So we can throw that one away. And this, ooh, but wait a minute. We do have one right here. Actually, you know what? I may sacrifice this. I may actually just cut that. I might cut that tab off and this tab off and then move the weld down so it's not as in a high stress area. And I might just use these two off of this one because that one there is already missing it, so it doesn't matter. All right, let me take this stuff into the garage. Let me take this one into the garage and I'll look it over. Looking over these bolts, meaning these right here, compared to the ones that are on the green unit, the threads on this are much better shape than the orange one. So I think I'm not going to entertain this yet. I'll leave this if there's worst case scenario. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and clean this one up first because I got to grind that off. So I'm going to clean this one up. Make sure all the oil and grease and everything's removed from it, and prep this to get welded back together. With the tab removed, I was able to go ahead and start to fit it into place. I took off all the extra weld, got all that out of the way, and then I started to round it off a little bit to try to mimic the original. I'm going to go ahead and take a file and bevel this down and bevel the other side, so that way I have a fairly good area to fill with weld and I can penetrate it to the best of my abilities. I'm also going to go ahead and dig out of the parts bin underneath my workbench a piece of sheet steel that's about this thickness, and I am going to actually make a gusset across here to give this a little bit more strength, because with this being in the back position of the engine plate and really the point right here where the screw adjuster is, there's obviously a lot of force or a lot of stress put on those two back tabs. So for this one, that is what I'm going to do. And on the other one, which fits a little better, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I will go ahead and make a little gusset and I will burn all of this in. With the tab basically straightened out, how I'm going to put that back together, I do have this bad bolt. It is one of the 5/16 yeah, 5/6/24 bolts that hold the mower deck in place. This one is obviously no bueno. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take the hacksaw, cut the bolt off, and then basically I want to keep this look. So I'm going to go ahead and drill it for a 5/16/24, and then I'm going to tap it. And the reason for that is this. I went to the hardware store and grabbed some 5/16/24. I'm going to cut the head of the bolt off, thread this into the piece, and then on the top side, or basically on the side here that this shows, which is actually this one right there, I'm going to go ahead and weld the bolt to this piece and then grind that nice and flat, and essentially it'll look factory stock from the top, but we'll have brand new threads sticking out the bottom. So that's the plan here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this and drill it. So this particular side is all set to go. I just need to put the 90-degree magnet in place and tack it, and then I can fully weld it in. I can also put the gusset in to strengthen that up. When it comes to the broken bolt, I have done that. As you can see, I just have it threaded in a little bit. You can see the 5/16" 24 threads. I'm just going to thread it up to about like right here, so it's a little bit below, and then just fill that in with the welder in order to be able to grind it nice and smooth like that. Hit it with some touch-up paint, and you probably will never know that it's been fixed. It does hang down just a hair lower, but that's fine. I'll just grind that to fit, or just leave it there because it's underneath the mower deck itself. So this one is all set. I'm going to go ahead and break out the other side, do about the same thing. One thing that's kind of neat, they stamp these numbers, 124/34, 124/35. I wonder what that means, but just interesting. So let me get the other side ready to go. With the opposing, I guess, side of the deck, I wanted to make sure that when I re-weld this particular tab back in place, oopsie daisy, in this position, I got it at the right height. So what I did was I just took my square right on the bottom of the bolt to the edge. And what's interesting is, I'm not going to be able to actually show you, but this one was welded way too high compared to all of the other ones when whoever did the original repair. So I'm going to grind this all off. I'm going to reset where it needs to be, and then go ahead and weld it in place. So just interesting, you know, little tidbits that I'm finding, but once I get this all welded up, it should be 100%. And there are the side pieces. I think they came out pretty good. With a little bit of green paint just dusted over this area on both sides, I think that, you know, you'll be hard pressed to see that they have been fixed. Even the bolt came out real mint. So you got brand new threads. The bolt has been done. I know I said earlier I was going to make like a gusset or something like that, but I was able to actually weld the bottom side real nice. So on both of them. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to get crazy or anything like that. I've already chased all the threads with a die. I've also even test fit both sides onto the base plate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and tear the base plate apart. We do have a crack in that we need to fix. And then we can start cleaning and reassembling everything. With the bulk of the items stripped off the engine plate or the transmission plate, whichever way you want to put it, you know, this thing is way over engineered for something that was supposed to be just obviously just a cheap little lawnmower. There is a lot of little bits and pieces. I mean, when we go to put it back together, I think you'll see, but in general, I didn't take this arm off. This is the blade engagement, and the reason for that is I'd have to get this, in order for it to slide all the way off, I'd have to get this grip off. The grip is mint, but it's really frozen on, so I'm not even going to try. So I'm going to just take this apart loosely, clean everything, and it's really non-material to what we're doing here. We do have some issues. This tab or corner is actually bent up, so it's got to get bent back down. We have a stress crack here that rides all the way over to here. So when I bend this down, I got to be careful because it'll probably break off. Either way, we're going to have to go ahead and weld that up. There's also, where else? Oh, right here, right by the engine. There's an engine mounting bolt. We have a stress crack right there. So we will go ahead, take the die grinder with the cutoff wheel, we'll groove this, and then we'll weld that back into place. Oh, and then if we flip it over like this, we can see right there is another stress crack, and this is where the lift piece goes. So we'll groove this, and then we'll go ahead and weld that in. Outside of that, this is in pretty clean shape. There's really nothing too bad on it. I got to get some more of that exhaust burnt oil off it, but Outside of that, it's actually in pretty good shape. So let me go ahead. You've seen me do things like this before, but I'm going to go ahead, groove this. I'm going to push, which corner is it? This corner. Bend that back, groove it, weld it, and then fix that hole around fix the engine bowl hole, and then we'll start putting it back together. That was actually kind of painless. Straightened out the tab, welded the tab in. You can just barely see where I welded it. Overall, it's good enough. Same with this. I actually left the weld a little bit lumpy, only because it's so hard to grind right in that area. The motor weld came out real good. I think the crack actually goes up further. I'm really going to have to look at that a little closer, which I will in a few minutes, but you can see what the basic outcome of the welding is. Here's where it was lumpy on the top side. On the back side, it's welded up real nice, and the tab is welded real nice. This is just the edge of the weld. The crack is actually, maybe a 16th or two over from where it was, and that's not a crack, that's just a mark. So this thing is all set to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's squeaky clean in these areas and just dust a little bit of green paint on it. Once that paint has had a chance to dry, we will go ahead and start putting this plate back together. With the repairs completed on the engine plate, transmission plate, I can go ahead and start bolting back on the two sub-assemblies that go to this. The first one that we're going to work on is this right here. It's this rod and spring and bracket. This is the blade engagement. This is obviously I'm assuming this is the blade brake. This is obviously, or I'm assuming, is the power for the blade. I do have a crusty one of these. It came off the orange tractor, and I did swap some parts between the two of them. Namely, the brake piece here was much better condition on the orange tractor than on the green one, so I did that. And this spring is actually from the orange tractor because it's in much better shape. Outside of that, basically these are the mounting bolts, mounting nuts. These are some extra washers that don't apply, so we'll put those over there. And essentially I got to hook this bar up to the lever, as well as I need to put this spring in this fashion. The bar actually kind of comes up, gets captured at the end of the spring. This spring here is actually this spring right there, and that's what creates the spring tension to keep the belt engaged. And then when you flip back, this spring is what brings the handle back to the neutral position for the blades. And we'll take this off real quick, and this bolts right into that hole right there, as well as, where's the other one? There it is, that hole right there. And this slides back and forth when you actuate the arm. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, bolt it to the plate itself, and we'll take a look at how that all kind of works. The next sub-assembly to be installed is the actual drive lever. So when you press the pedal, this is what tightens up the belt, or causes the belt to have tension and turns the transmission. We have a actuator that goes in this position, which actually houses this idler pulley. This obviously runs on the back side of the V-belt. We also have a belt pucker, which kind of goes in this position, kind of like that. This helps direct the belt, keeps it on the pulley. There is a spacer which is keyed. Basically, this has a flat spot right there, and that has a flat spot right there, and that is what actually keys both the levers, because this lever goes on the top side and this lever actually goes on the back side. Or this is the back side, this is the top side, but this goes here and this goes there. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this all together, get it put on, and we'll take a look at how it looks. All right, got the sides bolted back in. I have the bolts loose because they're slotted and it needs to be adjusted. Overall, I'm really happy with it. The only thing I'm not happy with All right, so let me take a step back. I was gonna finish the video with this part reinstalled in the tractor. I was gonna show you right behind that jack stand. There's some bolts with some slides. They go into the frame, and I was gonna show you how this deck or this engine plate goes up and down. But before I can reinstall it, if I hold this here and show you, there is, oops, where is it? Come on, right here. You can see there's a ton of play in this arm, from this top piece to the lower arm with the tensioner pulley in it. And there's a cam that kind of interlocks these two pieces, and there's a bunch of wear in that cam. Basically, it's a piece of round bar that has a flat side, like I showed you. I think I'm going to have to make a new one of those, because everything so far is coming out pretty much mint. You know, the rear axle, the front end, the motor's going to be finished, rebuilt pretty soon, and soon to come up is the transmission, which has been completely gone through. So this thing is basically going to be 100%, and that needs to be fixed. So with that is this video. Pretty much a hardcore exploded view of a Rugg carpet cut engine plate. I'm sorry I didn't get it into the frame, but you know, I got to fix certain things, and other things we can kind of let go, but this I think has to be fixed. Coming up is just a series of stationary photos of, you know, before I took it all apart, so that way it's documented how these tractors were put together. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your support. Thank you to all my new subscribers who just came on board just recently. I truly appreciate it. And until we get back on the little Rugg carpet cut or start another project, you have a great day.